Shalom. Call Halim La Yahweh Ba'Shem. Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. And sincere Shalom to 144,000 and 1/3. Salaki on that. This video, my spirit was on me to touch up on the phrase Anglo Saxons. Now, back in 1 West is when the awakening of the Israelites in Babylon the Great, which spread throughout the whole world via the internet mainly. You had the brothers back then, whether they're in the truth still, died in the truth, bugged out, doesn't matter. Back then, they pushed into the history of the Southern Kingdom being in Europe and having a rulership, a high position of authority throughout what we know today as Europe. And if you go into the history of the Franks, the Brits, the Anglo Saxons, those were all just different factions of the Southern Kingdom. Judah, Benjamin, Levi, going to war against each other. The Edomites having authority in different parts of Europe. Now, if you go into this right here, Anglo Saxons is just a broken way of saying the angelic sons of Isaac. All right. So when you look at all these the Scythians, all right, you go into the Goths, okay, the Anglo Saxons, all right, the Franks, and all those are all Israelites. Okay, those aren't so-called white people that were called these names and were roaming around during the medieval times, ruling, Ireland and what we call today France and whatnot. Those were all so-called black men in authority during the Dark Ages, and it's so much history, okay, that it's pretty much been impossible for the Edomites to cover it up. There's so much artwork, relics. There's certain castles in Europe that people aren't allowed to go into castles because they have so much detail of Jacob in there. Now, maybe what was it, last year or this year, Putin, there's things called Russian icons where that's what they call them, which is just the history of Jake, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi primarily. Of course, you have obviously the Northern Kingdom was mixed up in there, but primarily Judah, Benjamin, Levi, they were ruling up in those parts of Russia. And you have the artwork, the statues, still in Russia and Europe to this day. Germany, there's statues of Jake still there, and there's plenty of artwork in those churches there, and most of the infrastructure there, Esau doesn't build like that. That's why those castles and whatever else look different than what Esau built around it, over it, or added to it. It looks different because Esau didn't build those. It was Jacob. And as you can see here, they break down how Sac goes into Isaac, all right, and it goes into Saxon, and then Anglo goes into angel, all right. When you go into it, it means what? The angelic sons of Isaac, or Isaac's sons, all right? That's what Anglo-Saxon means. But of course, through Esau, him being the devil, he tried to take the tried to act like he is the people of the Lord. He is the Israelites. All right. Let's see if I can find that. think it's Ezekiel, what, 35, 36, somewhere around there. This is Ezekiel 35 and 15. As thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel. What is the inheritance of the Israelites? Our land, our identity, the scriptures. All right. As thou didst rejoice at the inheritance of the house of Israel, because it was desolate, so will I do unto thee. Thou shalt be desolate, O Mount Seir, and all Idumea, even all of it, and they shall know I am Yahweh. So it's not just the small hats. It's all these Edomites that are proclaiming to be the people of the Lord. Now, of course, they try to on a mainstream push, they make it seem, oh, it's just the small hats, and then the rest of the Edomites are who cares, because they're Christians, and if as long as you're a Christian, it's all good. So you do have the confusion there, but on a grand scale, what they think that they're the chosen people of the Most High. So this is Ezekiel 36 and 1. Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yahweh. Thus said Yahweh, because the enemy hath said against you, aha, even the ancient high places are ours in possession. So who is this enemy? It lists this enemy right here, verse 5. Therefore, thus said Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, who have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, and with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. So the Edomites, Idumea is the Greek translation, all right, of what? Edom, the Edomites. So the Edomites took our land, all right? They took our identity, they took our scriptures, all right? And the Most High Yahweh set it up that way. And guess what? Now our inheritance is being brought back to us, because the Most High has poured his spirit out, and you Edomites are about to face the pain. All right, let's go to Joel, the 3rd chapter, because the Israelites have always been present throughout the whole world. All right, Joel 3 and 19. Egypt shall be a desolation, and Edom shall be a desolate wilderness, for the violence against the children of Judah, because they have shed innocent blood in their land. So Judah was ran out of Europe. What did they call it in Spain? I forget it. I forget the name of it. It's a Spanish word for the Nephardic or something like that, Jews or something like that, when Jake was getting ran out of Europe. Okay, and then Jake was Judah, okay, ran out of Europe, and then put hell here in Babylon. All right, that's what it's going into, because you Edomites got hell to pay for all the evil you've done to the Israelites as a whole, but particular Judah. All right, because Esau put a lot of hell on the so-called blacks of America, in contrast to the other tribes. So let's go to Ezekiel 25 and verse 12. Thus said Yahweh, because that Edom hath dealt against the house of Judah by taking vengeance, and have greatly offended, and revenged himself upon them. So what is this revenge? So King David, all right, which was from the tribe of Judah, all right, Yahweh, all right, which means Yahweh thanks. He had the Edomites in subjection, and who else? I think Joshua did, and not fully with Joshua, but David did, King Solomon, and then Jake was putting the belt to ass to Esau, in the Dark Ages. So this Esau wanted his lick back, not knowing that it's going to come back to him. All right, they think that there's not going to be a punishment for the evil they done to the children of Israel, but it is, and it's going to be too much for them to bear. Let's go to Jeremiah 30. And by the way, this article, BibleTools.org, where they're properly proving that Anglo Saxons were Israelites, they're thinking that these are so-called white people. All right, they're thinking that these are just so-called white people in general, not exclusively small hats, just white people. Because if you look at the history of Babylon, the pioneers, they called them what? Anglo Saxons. So that's the identity theft right there. Jeremiah 30:11. For I am with thee, saith Yahweh, to save thee, though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee. So the Israelites were scattered into all nations. We were scattered into Europe, Asia, the land of Canaan, Ham, all right, Put, Mizraim. We were scattered throughout the whole globe. And then the scattering expanded with what was it, 1619, with the slave cargo ships, where the Southern Kingdom docked in the Americas. All right. Though I make a full end of all nations, whether I have scattered thee. So all these nations are going to be put down. Moab, Edom, Elam, they're all going to be put down. All right. Yet will I not make a full end of thee, because the Most High has a 2/3 remnant in Babylon the Great, and another remnant across the whole globe. But I will correct thee in measure, and will not leave thee altogether unpunished. So yes, some jakes are going to have to get put to death, but the Most High is still going to have mercy upon his people, man. And I'm going to end this off with about one or two more scriptures. You had Israelites, the Spartans and all that. Those were Israelites, and those mighty warriors, and those were jakes, man. Because the Maccabees goes into it. Those their lineage goes back to, I mean, even though, don't get me wrong, it's like, edgelord stuff with the Spartans and their super tough regimen to make their warriors, which is going off, but people find it cool because they were mighty, and they did a lot of powerful things. All right, but that's not how, King David wasn't a part of that. All right, King David didn't move like that, and he was the most powerful warrior in the scriptures. Of course, Yahweh Shai has more authority, more power, but Yahweh Shai, when he came, he wasn't coming as a warrior. When he comes back, he is, but in the time being, when he was Melchizedek and so on and so forth, he wasn't really in that warrior like spirit. That's why King David was the most mightiest warrior, and he wasn't moving like no Spartan, man. Now let's prove the point. Let's go to First Maccabees, the 12th chapter, and First Maccabees, the 12th chapter, in verse 21. It is found in writing that the Lacedaemonians and Jews are brethren, and that they are of the stock of Abraham. So the Lacedaemonians, which were the Spartans, all right, that's where the Spartans dwelt at. Those were Israelites. Their lineage goes back to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But of course, through the scattering and whatnot, they branched off. Right, we were thrown out of our land, cast out of our land. But those were Israelites. Judah, all right, Ephraim, all right, Manasseh. Those were Israelites, man. Let's end this off with Romans 8. Romans 8:16. The Spirit itself beareth beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. Okay, so if you in that spirit beareth witness with what? The gospel. So yeah, you can tell Jake without even the gospel. You can just tell Jake is Jake, but the gospel is the ultimate. All right, because they of Israel, not all of Israel, because the Most High go smoke a lot of Jakes, man. The majority of Jakes here in Babylon the Great are going to die. All right, 2/3, that's almost 70% of Jakes gone. Okay, So that's it for this lesson. All I want to write this out was edifying. Shalom.